Hey, everybody, come on in. I am Matt Norlander here with Cover 3 podcast, Chip Patterson. That's right, we got the crossover. Everyone on YouTube, hello. Drop your questions and your comments with frequency. If you're listening to this on your phone, thank you for listening. However, you're getting it as fast as you're getting it. We appreciate you. We've got a lot to get to. We got to set up this Final Four. Gary Parrish is in the air right now. And so we did not want to wait until late Sunday to get you a pod. We wanted to go real time, especially for our live audience that likes to watch us on YouTube. So do go ahead and smash or tickle or massage or just say hello to that like button if you could. If you're watching live, if you're watching after the fact, hello, how we doing? I am wearing my Beach Boys shirt. This is for the Beach Boys from FAU. I was at the Garden on Saturday night. I know the podcast from Saturday night with Cobb and Parrish. Recap that. I will get to those owls. Those incredible owls, those impossible owls. I will get to them before we get out of here. The Final Four is set. The total seed number, if you add them all up, we're at 23. It's the second highest in history. The highest, 2011, which also went to Houston. This is also because we have Miami playing UConn and FAU playing SDSU. Stop. Just, again, let that soak in. Miami, UConn, FAU, San Diego State. It's the first time since 1970 that we have had a Final Four with at least three of the participants having never made a Final Four before, making their debuts all at the same time. How about that? How incredible is that? Also, it's the first Final Four ever without a number 1 seed and a number 2 seed and a number 3 seed. My goodness, how about that? A year ago, we had all blue bloods, Kansas, Carolina, Duke, Nova. Those tournament wins last year totaled up to more than 400. This year, UConn's got 63 tournament wins to its name. FAU, you know them all. It's 4. San Diego State has 10. Miami has 15, and almost all of Miami's have come under Jim Larranaga. We are going to get to Texas over Texas losing to Miami first. But Chip, how you doing? And what is your what's your reaction to this Final Four we have and what we saw go down on Sunday?
Oh, I mean, first of all, it's good. Like, you and I got hired about the same time. Like, we've been working at CBS for like 12, 13 years.
It's been well over a decade at this point. Yes.
I got butterflies before we hit record because, and like, this is the thing that I want to connect with. Like, everybody, like, shout out to everybody who's watching live. I see all of you in the chat. Like, am I going to do a duck impression? Or, like, maybe, I don't know. We'll see. Like, because you're always trying to hunt the duck when you're doing that ISO defense, right? But okay. I do think that this is one of those shows that, as a listener of the Eye on College Basketball podcast, I'm always fired up for. So, like, even still, all this time, super excited to be here. And Gary Parrish did say, in addition to, look at me, I'm an Aztec, he also said that he would be watching. And I know that he's got the in-flight on-board, like, season pass, gold standard, like everything that you can possibly have for his preferred airline. And so I hope he is watching. Hey, GP, I hope that we're doing you justice here.
We think he's actually watching right now. There's no chance. There's no chance. I'm actually going to say there's no shot. No. Not happening.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was. He's kind of sad that he was going to miss out on this one.
Yeah, well, we will. Parrish and I will be back on Tuesday to preview the Final Four in a typical episode. But we want to get this up as quickly as we can. And
right. And exactly, like get me called in, and also, like, if this first game had been the second game, I can't say that I'm as fired up. I cannot say that I'm, like, charging in after we went. What was it? We started off. We had, like, Greg McDermott calls a timeout, 30-second timeout, to be able to, like, try to set up a good shot. But it was a Baylor Shireman air ball, and then all of a sudden we had a media timeout. Everyone complains about the, like, commercial kickoff commercial. How about the commercial air ball commercial that we had during the slugfest that was San Diego State outlasting Creighton? But you know, there's a lot to unpack here from both of these games, from the matchups that we've got ahead. Fired up to be with you, man.
Yeah, no, it's listen, it's a fascinating Final Four. I got no issues with it. I'm willing to admit that, like, if it was Creighton instead of San Diego State, because FAU can play any kind of game, we would have a lot of good potential for two really unpredictable, exciting games. San Diego State will dictate that game to almost certainly be decided under the score 65 for the winning team. But whatever, we are we're all too happy to.
Can we go like a general question here? Because
what do you got?
yeah, all right. So Ryan in the chat says, "Is this the most entertaining tournament that we've had?" I'm going with yes, absolutely top 3. And the thing that makes this interesting, 0 buzzer beaters. We've had a lot, like Furman is our closest thing that we have.
One. And oh, by the way, Trammell hit a foul shot. Trammell hit a foul shot with like 2 and change. It's not the same. I know.
Yeah, but with no buzzer beaters, we've had phenomenal comebacks. We've had controversy. We've had incredible endings. And like, yeah, from an entertainment standpoint, 100%.
It's been great. It's not the most entertaining one ever. And I love Chip. I love me some NCAA tournament every single year. I love every variety. No doubt about it. But this isn't because we haven't had a buzzer beater, and there haven't been. We didn't get just an assembly line of amazing finish after amazing finish. There have been crazier ones, but it has been tremendous. And let's get into Sunday's action. We're gonna go Texas over Miami first. So. I said on HQ, I think it's 70% Miami wins it and comes back, and 30% Texas collapses there. And we'll get to the Larranaga stuff and what he's done because I do want to touch on that as well. But man, oh man, Texas. Okay, so there was it seemed I don't know. The game happened and ended. I hopped on HQ. I talked about this for 15 minutes. I took off my dress shirt, my jacket. I tossed on a Beach Boys shirt, and I hopped on the podcast. So I haven't really sat there and digested. It feels like the call that was going to be Omir's 5th that then became the rightful call.
Cunningham, the Cunningham box out.
Yeah, because he was undercutting him. Like, I get it. You want to have the ability to box out. That guy was backing out of a garage that had its doors closed. Okay, like that had to be the call on Cunningham. It feels like that might have been the turning point there. But just some stuff off the top here. Jordan Miller, phenomenal. 27 points on 7 of 7 shooting, 13 of 13 from the line. This is a guy who, Miller, I've mentioned him many times on the pod.
You and I did. On the we were talking ACC tournament, we're like, who is the one player who could take over right now and transcend what Miami's ceiling is? Because Isaiah Wong has the ball in his hands all the time. Norshad Omier is clearly especially with some of the injury troubles that he had, was the X factor everyone zeroed in on. You and I have been simpatico with the idea that if you really want to take Miami to the next level, then Jordan Miller is the guy that's going to be able to do it. And the stuff that he had, did you get a chance on HQ to hear what he had to say after the game when he was talking? He was talking to Tracy Wolfson, and Tracy had clearly gotten into this a little bit on the off day on Saturday, where he was like, the pain of losing that Elite 8 game last year was an intense motivating factor. And then Jim Larranaga said the same thing when Jim Larranaga came in. He said, Jordan and Isaiah were talking to everybody in the locker room. They were like, we want to go further. We want to go further. And I think that is something that is so cool to me. I've gotten a lot of questions, and I'm sure you've gotten a lot of questions where it's is the transfer portal, is the way that you remake a roster every year, is that why this NCAA tournament is so crazy? Yeah, maybe. Of course it has to play a role. But when we do have those stories of a tournament experience and the heartbreak that is felt, and then when you bring that back and you transmit it to your teammates and you say, look, this is what it's going to take, and we want to go further. It seemed like Jordan Miller, in the off day before this game even tipped off, had been able to deliver that message to the rest of Miami's roster, and then to also follow that up with being the best player on the court, either team. I mean, that's some cool stuff. That is cool college basketball, NCAA tournament stuff that I love.
I completely agree with you. It is, man, oh man, this Miami story is something else here. As for the game, and Miller, so he's the first player. This is just so Miller is the first player to score 25 in a tournament game on 100% from the field and the line since, you already know it, Chip. Who?
Christian Laettner.
Laettner in 92 against Kentucky.
Yeah.
What a performance.
Phenomenal. It's funny. I actually went back to the spectrum, emotionally, psychologically, did my own little darkness retreat. Went back to that 1992 Elite 8 game.
Mm-hmm.
But I did it in advance of the Gonzaga UConn game. which was nothing like to Kentucky at all. And we'll get to like more Final Four stuff later. But I have been thinking about that game and sort of like those sort of transcendent performances and what it requires to be able to go and get it done. And Miller was absolutely there.
You can see the box score if you're watching on YouTube here. Now to keep this up for a couple more minutes, I'll read off this. One, we keep saying Jordan Miller's underrated. He's no longer underrated. Same thing for Larranaga. He's not the most making the Final Four. Jim Larranaga is no longer underrated. He can no longer be declared that, in my opinion, there. But you see what Miami was able to do: 59% from the field, and they were cruising above 60 for much
all
of the
game.
The entire game until the end. By the way, Miami's down they were down 13 with 13 to go.
Mm-hmm.
They just got to the line way more than Texas did. Miami from 2-point range was outrageous. What issue? They shot 27 of 41 from inside the 3-point line, and only missed four foul shots. That to quote our buddy Seth David, that is how you get Capone.
So,
and,
what do you make that out? I wanted to pitch that at you. So they make 11 3-pointers in the Sweet 16, and like from the jump, like they didn't. Oh, let me see my notes right here. They did not have a single 3-point attempt until 7:30 left in the first half. Is that Texas's defense that sort of forces their hand? Like, what does your eye?
I think that's part of it. Yeah, because Texas can get out and guard you like that. And there were some, there were some shining moments here from Texas on that end of the floor until Miami flipped the game. Like, I thought Hunter played really well. I thought Carr had a pretty good overall game. And in fact, he was able to stay in after taking that shot from Omier on the inbound there. Bishop had some moments there. You even saw Dylan Mitchell. Dylan Mitchell had just an outrageous block. In fact, my mind went to a place where I was like, we're going to get Dylan Mitchell against Andre Jackson in the Final Four. No, we are not. Texas is going home, and it will be Miami instead. And I'm more than okay with Miami's litany of athletes matching up with UConn. It's going to be a fun matchup no matter what. But you'll notice, like, Miami's a team that takes a lot of threes. It took 8 in this game.
Right.
And I'd be interested. I don't know if anyone's asked, and as we're doing this, literally Larranaga hasn't even gotten to I don't think he's even gotten to the post-game presser yet because they got to do the net cutting and they got to do all that stuff. So we won't know this in real time in the podcast. But I am interested to know if
net
what's up?
Cutting.
Net cutting.
I just want to make sure you said net cutting.
Net cutting. That's correct. Net cutting. Yeah. Yes. Net cutting. I'd be interested to know how much of that was Texas and how much of it might have been a game plan, a wrinkle, because they were able to get it done down low. Omier had 11, Pack had 15. Poplar again carried them for spurts there, and they just they did a wonderful job on Larranaga. He's the 4th head coach to make multiple Final Fours as a 5 seed or worse. This will not be a trivia time. You want to know the other ones? Here they are: Larry Brown, Tom Izzo, and Brad Stevens. What do they all have in common? They are in or are going to the Hall of Fame. Jim Larranaga should be going to the Naismith Memorial Hall of Fame, okay? Because only he and Larry Brown have taken 2 programs to the Final Four as a 5. Brad Stevens, of course, did it twice with Butler, and then Izzo's obviously only done it with Michigan State. Larry Brown did it with multiple teams. And Larranaga should be well on his way, man, to orchestrate this. How about this? He does this not just on the 17th anniversary of doing it with Mason, okay? What is somewhat forgotten about that Mason game was, and I can't believe it's been 17 years. I remember being in my living room with my brothers and my parents. That was a Sunday, and that was, I think, the second game in DC. It might have been the first one. They were down 12 points in the first half. That Patriots team was to that just beast of a UConn team, just down big time. They rally, they win it, they take it to overtime there. This one, they're down 13. In fact, I think they were still down like 10 or so with 8 minutes to go in this game. And the reason they won it, there were only 2 times in this game when Miami missed 2 shots or more in the game. They missed 3 straight in the early part of the first half, and then they missed 2 in a row in the 11-minute range with 11 and change to go. Other than that, they didn't go any point in the game where they missed more than 2 in a row, or 2 in a row, period. That is why it got done. There were some turnovers that created some of that up and down and skittishness. Texas obviously was shooting lights out for much of the first 75-80% of the game. Texas finished shooting 50% from the field, 40% from 3-point range, shot 73% from the line. comported itself basically as well as you probably could expect it to. But Miami was a good matchup, and we got an incredible just an incredible reach. The score doesn't reflect how tight the game was. And oh, by the way, how about this now? 5 seeds are 5-1 all time in regional finals against 2 seeds. 5-1 all time. Shouts to Dave Warlock of the NCAA who tweeted out that nugget as well. Any other takeaways from this one, Chip?
There was an unbelievable image during some of those final free throws where of course, none of the Miami players are on the block, but they're all arm in arm. Like it's one guy at the line and it is the other 4, and they are all arm in arm. And the reason why that stands out to me is that the only players who finished in double figures were the starters. Like, was it 5 bench points? They all come from Joseph. Everything that Miami got was from its starters. And one of my notes that I was making in preparation for this podcast, again, butterflies, expectations, all those things, is that one of what I saw in San Diego State Creighton was Creighton run out, and we'll get to this game in a little bit, but like Creighton's a short rotation. San Diego State's a deeper team.
Yes.
Ran out of legs. Jumpers were coming up short. They were giving up offensive rebounds. Like, okay, like you're running out of gas. And I totally understand it, but that's what's happening. And I thought that was what was happening. And those 4 players, whoever was at the free throw line, the other 4, they were all arm in arm for Miami in these 2 weekends. Those 5 have been enough. And that's cool, man. Like you've done a lot on this podcast talking about every tournament is different. We try to tie together all these different threads, but I want to appreciate this Miami team, the regular season champions in the ACC, going to the Final Four for the first time in program history. Like they stand against what I thought was a developing narrative. Because if Texas wins this game, the narrative is, well, look, Texas, deep. FAU, deep. San Diego State, deeper than Creighton. Like UConn's not like terribly deep, but at least, it's sort of built into this narrative that in a year where nobody was good, like if you just had enough bodies to be able to sustain injury issues, foul trouble, like whatever it was, that you were going to be able to advance in the NCAA tournament. But Miami was just better. I mean, it was really impressive, and it speaks to the camaraderie of a group that, shout out to Life Wallet and all that. But the camaraderie of a group that Jim Larranaga has fostered, the way they play for each other, they seem to, based on my view of them on the court throughout this season, and especially in this NCAA tournament, like they seem to have bonded together in a way that overcomes a depth deficiency to some of these other teams that have made deep runs.
And on Texas, real quick, this is stinging, obviously. Had Texas won, I thought it had a healthy chance to give Connecticut a good game and win a national championship under an interim head coach, which would have been, a Steve Fisher situation. And then the ties that bind. Steve Fisher built up the San Diego State program. There's a lot of that right now, by the way. I guess we'll say that. I'll try and save that more for the end when we just do a quick preview of the Final Four. But in case I forget it, I'll mention it here. Like FAU didn't even have a program until '88, didn't go D1 until 30 years ago. SDSU is up there. Like Baylor's probably the greatest reconstruction, but SDSU was a nothing program till Fisher got there and Dutcher, took over. Miami didn't have basketball for like 14, 15 years and finally got it back. And well, UConn is UConn. So very fascinating overall. As for Texas though, and Rodney Terry, I do think he's going to get the job. It hasn't been offered yet. This is just in talking to a few sources and the signals coming around there. So Chris Del Conte, the AD, did go on record. I think he told Wolfson, and she gave an update in game today. And then he also told Dennis Dodd, he told the Dodd father this as well. So I think he told a few people on the record, but he was never going to go forward with that process formally until Texas's season was done. Now, it would have been kind of awkward if Texas made the Final Four and that was still the case because he would have been asked about it. And then maybe the hand would have been forced. I don't know. I do know that the staff hasn't been given like a direct signal that this is for sure coming, but there's a lot of hope and optimism that it is. I'll admit I guess there's still the potential that there's a dark horse candidate out there, But my expectation is that Rodney Terry will get the job. I think he's earned it. It doesn't mean that it won't ultimately prove to be the wrong decision. We could look up in 3 years and Texas has fallen to, 7th or 8th in the overall hierarchy and its new digs in the SEC. That might be the case. Or maybe Rodney Terry gets Texas to the tournament yearly and he's, two of the next 3 seasons, like they make second weekend runs. Like that would be more than satisfactory, obviously. And you don't have to give him a huge contract, and you don't have to offer him 7 years at $4.5 million, and they won't, by the way. But absent of having an absolute home run waiting in the wings, I don't think that's necessarily the wrong move. So I'm anticipating that being the way that goes. And I know Texas fans, and plenty of them are all in on it. Some are probably feeling a little ambivalent in the moment. If you're a Texas fan watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, you're just like, man, that felt like a Barnesian ending. I don't know about these vibes right now.
No. All right. So look, so here's my take on this. So we were on the verge of the first Texas Final Four since 2003.
I'm with you.
And we were already at the first Elite Eight since 2008. Shout out to DJ Augustine. But Charlotte Bobcats legend, obviously.
Yes.
We are not dealing with a program where the standard, what has been proven is that high. You know what I'm saying? I just think that because Texas basketball is considered a top 10 job, that is because of the athletic department, the finances, the revenue, and all the things around what comes with being a part of the Texas athletic department. But in terms of what your expectations are for success, especially in the postseason and the NCAA tournament, Rodney Terry can do more Elite Eight runs. Rodney Terry is more than capable of getting Texas to the tournament, getting Texas to the second weekend, based on the way that sources coming in for Matt. Based on the way
keep going. It actually is. Keep going.
Based on the way that Texas has performed historically in the modern era in the NCAA tournament, Rodney Terry can do that. That to me seems like a no-brainer.
I need you to keep going longer than that.
Okay.
No, I'm good. We'll see if they text back. But yes,
Rodney Terry, Kevin Durant. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I hear you on that. Absolutely. Well, that's Miami, Texas. We got a good one. I always love and give us a nice regional final on Sunday night, and Miami, Texas delivered. I was just waiting on that one other counter punch from Texas that did not land. But credit to Jim Larranaga, 73 years old and going back to the Final Four. Canes, man. The Hurricanes are going to the Final Four. All right. That's that one. We got to talk about San Diego State Creighton, of course, and what went down there. And we will. But first, Nada, do your thing.
Phenomenal! Absolutely magisterial here! Artilharia do Campeonato Brasileiro! Golfish agora! Golaço!
Sorry, still texting. So let's talk San Diego State Creighton, the other regional final from earlier on Sunday. Felt like a toss-up going in. It certainly played that way. We can get to the game stuff, but let's just get to, I guess we need to get to the call. I'm not that compelled to talk about it, but here we go. Yes or no? Foul on Ryan Nembhard against Darion Trammell. Chip, what say you?
Foul. Yeah, he had his left hand on his hip, and that's a foul. And I love the way it was described, where if the offensive player beats you, and that is exactly what happened on the very beginning of this one-on-one play, was that Trammell beat Nembhard, had an advantage, and then the left hand delivers a push. That's a foul. It's a good call. I am. Oh man. So I was in Stanford for the first weekend, and got to experience. You were just on with Hakeem. You were just in Stanford, but Hakeem and Joe Musso were debating the LeBron James block on Andre Iguodala from the 2016 finals, right? was it a goaltend? Because LeBron James's finger swipes the net. So it's like, is that a goaltend or is that an iconic block? This, that, or the other. And what I came back to was the swallow the whistle principle. And I am, in the NBA, a swallow the whistle principle guy because it's a 7-game series. Because there are other opportunities for you to be able to prove that you are the best team. But in a single game, like a single elimination tournament, like the NCAA tournament, if it's a foul at the 4-minute mark, then it has to be a foul at the end of the game. And we saw Nembhard get beat, and we saw Nembhard put his left hand on the hip and push him just a little bit. It's a foul. And so credit Trammell for knocking down the second of 2 free throws to be able to seal the win. The Baylor Shireman might have put his foot on the line also on the inbounds pass that then we also reviewed 1,000 times, which built into this exhausting ending. But
it did. I know that was a bummer.
It was a bummer ending, but I think that's the issue people had with it. It was like, give us a buzzer beater or give us OT. Don't give us that. But it was a foul. It's a foul. Yeah, it was a foul. Anyway. So sorry to be so long with it, but got to do my Iron College basketball duty and be a little long-winded.
Yeah,
and
that's what we tend to do here.
That's what you do.
I hear you.
But yeah, foul.
Aztecs played it the way they wanted to play it. Now Creighton's capable and very nearly did win. I mean, Creighton can beat you in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s. It's built for that. Not deep, but still built for it. Nembhard started hot, then faded late. Kalkbrenner was mostly good, although there were a few opportunities late that he let slip away.
Dude, he missed some bunnies. It was so frustrating.
Sometimes I tend to get diplomatic on this, but let's be real here. Creighton was 7 of 16 on layups and dunks, and San Diego State was not much better. It was a 57-56 final that should have been, even 66-65, something like that, a little more. There was a lot that was given away there, but Lamont Butler just coming up big. I wouldn't have believed that San Diego State could have gotten to the Final Four, beating Alabama and beating Creighton, and having Matt Bradley, the team's only. I'm almost positive this is. I was looking at this going into the regional semis. I think Matt Bradley was the only player for San Diego State that was averaging double-figure scoring on the team, for the season. He had 2 points against Creighton. He had 2. And against Alabama, he had 6. You tell me he scores 8 total points. I'm telling you, SDSU has no shot.
No, I push back. Because that's not how SDSU is ultimately built. It is not the double-digit points, it's the double-digit minutes. Because for Creighton, outside of here's the minutes for their starting 5: 35, 37, 37, 37, 38. No bench. They were running out of gas. They had no legs on the jump shots, no legs on the 3-pointers. On defense, they were giving up offensive rebounds, and officially the offensive rebounds, San Diego State got 13 of them. But it just felt like all 13 of those were the most significant offensive rebounds that you could possibly have. And sometimes they led to 3-pointers. And it was, again, to reference back to my argument from earlier, if Texas had won, my big theme for today was going to be about, in this tournament of chaos and everything falling apart, it was the teams that had enough bodies that were able to get it done. Miami clearly ducked that narrative, but that narrative was initially built here in this game, where I just felt like, from the offensive and defensive standpoint, a Creighton team that I had been way too high on. I wrote the re-ranking the Sweet 16 post for ESPorts.com, and I was way too high on Creighton.
I do not have a chip I was wrong button. I'm with that. So hold on. In honor of that, though, you are going to get it. This must be done here. Where is it? Here we go. This is chip, but it's GP.
They're not good.
No, wait, that was wrong. Sorry. Well, that, but also I was wrong. There we go. Okay, here we go.
But Xavier fans were in my mentions because of course Xavier blasted, Creighton, and they were like, what are you doing? Moving Creighton up. And I was like, well, they got this versatility scoring, like they can get it from Carpenter. They can get it from Alexander. They can get it from Shireman. Nembhard just went off in this tournament, blah, 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 blah. They got so many different ways to beat you, but like, I don't have a sixth option with this Creighton team right now. And I just think San Diego State's a better like capital T team. And that's what we saw in this game is that they were able to be a little bit fresher, get a few more offensive rebounds, a little bit more effort, a little bit more energy. And like that ultimately ended up tipping this thing. It's a 1-point game that was decided on a free throw. So like, yes, there are alternate universes. I know that you're a big multiverse guy, but like there are alternate universes that Creighton is in the Final Four, and this is a huge moment for Greg McDermott and a Jays program that has had a ton of great coaches in its history and a lot of like great pride and good fan support. But ultimately, man, it just kind of felt like they just didn't have it, man. They didn't have enough juice, didn't have enough gas. And that's where Brian Dutcher and San Diego State and the way that team is built, the way that they play a little bit more well-balanced. No one on San Diego State's roster played more than 30 minutes in this. One Trammell played 31.
Trammell, they needed him. Yeah.
But everybody else double-digit minutes. And again, all the starting 5, 35 or more. Nobody on the bench, double-digit minutes. It's just different.
Look at this graphic on the screen. Look at this. Look what the Aztecs are doing to just kill the souls of their opponents. The averages. I'm going to say it out loud for everyone listening on their phone. Mountain West title game. Utah State was averaging 78, held to 57. Charleston averaging 80, held to 57. Furman averaging 81, held to 52. Bama averaging 82, held to 64. Creighton averaging 74.5, held to 56 points. They dictate the terms under which the game will be played. That doesn't change under Dutcher. By the way, San Diego State is 9-1 in games decided by 5 points or fewer. They are just comfortable in this, man. They are beyond comfortable. And to extend that, Alabama and Creighton, two teams that are good at that, not high level shooting the three, but certainly willing and wanting to shoot the three and certainly can get hot. They went 5 of 44 from 3-point range, did Bama and Creighton. Goodness, man.
San Diego State is the example of I kind of think 3-point defense is BS. Like
it's not BS.
But San Diego State makes
column
me
A and it's a little column B. It's a little column A and a little column B because, and this is after talking to coaches on this stuff,
because you chase them off the
way
line.
The team will scheme you on that end of the floor. It can have cumulative effects on how you actually get your shots off and where you get your shots off. I understand the theory that 3-point defense can sometimes be a factor of luck. I just don't buy into it because what's necessarily the difference from taking a shot from 23 feet versus a half foot inside the 3-point line? Really? So I think there can be some luck, but I actually think that teams that are doing it and have proven it, they have an influence over that. That's my take on that.
But 2 for 17 from 3 for Creighton. 2 for 17 from 3. Creighton was 9 for 24 against Princeton, 11 for 24 against Baylor, only 3 for 20 against NC State. But I mean, even the attempts, I mean, we're talking, this is a team that shot 26, 34, 21, 25, 23, 20, 24, 24, less than 20 attempts, 17 attempts against San Diego State. That's where, because what I've heard, like when I push, my pushback is the chase them off the line mentality. It's like, based on the way that we scheme our defense, like we want to not just contest, but we want to even make it so that you don't want to take that 3. And San Diego State, with one of the best 3-point defenses in the entire nation, seemed to prove that here against a team that can be very, very dangerous from 3.
How about this for San Diego State? The second team ever to hold all 4 opponents en route to a Final Four below 25% 3-point shooting to the Final Four. Trivia time! Who's the other team? It's happened within the past, I'll give you a window. Let's say it's happened within the past 4 to 14 seasons.
In the last 4 to 14 seasons, there's been a team. And what was
the only team ever? But the answer falls in that range. Yes.
What was the statistic for 3-point defense?
Hold all 4 opponents under 25% 3-point shooting in every game going to the Final Four.
UConn 2014.
Syracuse 2013 did it. Syracuse held opponents collectively to 15% from 3-point range. San Diego State, 17%. By the way, Darian Trammell, 4th player ever to hit a game-winning foul shot with 2.0 seconds or under remaining this deep into the tournament. So Elite Eight, Final Four, National Championship. The others to do it, and yeah, it's a little bit of a bump for Creighton, obviously, but he got it. That was the bucket that sealed it. Hal Lear shouts to 1956 Temple against Cincinnati. Raymar Morgan versus Tennessee for Michigan State in 2010. An unforgettable foul shot. There are 4 instances: Lear, Morgan, Trammell, and then 2019, Kyle Guy. In the Final Four, controversial call. I actually thought it was a good call against Auburn. So,
do we talk enough about how that was a soft Final Four?
What do you mean?
So, Duke and North Carolina were the best teams in the country that season.
Reminder, everyone listening, this is Cover 3 Podcast, Chip Patterson, our college football podcast. He is based in the Triangle area and is a lifelong resident of the state of North Carolina. I am now outflanked on this podcast by 2 NC residents. That's right.
Listen, that ACC tournament semifinal between Duke and North Carolina was phenomenal. Like, that was because Zion was healthy, and that was not the case. Obviously, he leaves the first game. Second game, I think he sits out too, the one in Chapel Hill. And then when they play in the tournament, it's full rosters, both teams, like Kobe White's vibing, like everything is moving. That game was incredible. And I walked out of that game thinking, like, well, those are 2 of the best teams in the country. Then Duke gets beat by Michigan State in the Elite Eight. North Carolina gets beat by Auburn in the Sweet 16. But then you take a look back and you're like, all right, so Virginia had who did Virginia beat in the Final Four? Oh, it was just, they didn't even have to play Tom Izzo? Oh, okay. All right. They just had to play Texas Tech. Okay. So they just had to play Auburn in its first ever Final Four, and then Texas Tech. Okay. All right, cool. You know, I'm just saying that, like, in 2019, I thought the 2 best teams in the country were Duke and North Carolina. So, you know.
But that's
back at you, boomerang trivia time. Okay, so
let's go.
I said Connecticut. And we're going to get into like Final Four look aheads in just a little bit. Can you name the starting 5 of UConn's 2014 national title team on that first Monday in April?
Okay, so you've got Boatwright, you've got Shabazz. I was there.
I mean, listen, like you're. This is
Boatwright, Shabazz. Hold on, give me a second. Boatwright, Shabazz, DeAndre Daniels.
Yep.
Hold on, the white guy. Neil Scafai.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, you're right.
Who is the big man in the middle?
The big man. Yep.
I'm on the right track? Give me a second.
Yeah, you are.
Give me a second. Come on.
6'10".
Hold on.
Sophomore. Because all this UConn stuff had me digging. And I was like, I looked at this starting 5 and it blew my mind. Because I look at the Kentucky starting 5 and it's like Aaron Harrison, Andrew Harrison, James Young, Julius Randle, Takari Jackson, Poythress coming off the bench. Like, of course I remember all these guys.
Tell me I'm right.
And I do not remember a lot of this UConn rotation.
Give it to me. That was a celebratory headphone.
Wait, did you say it?
I said Amita Brahma.
Oh, no.
That's not it?
No.
He's... What?
No. Brema came off the bench.
Oh, this is an outrage.
4 out of 5 is still impressive.
Not it. Brahma didn't start?
Nope.
Can I get a fact check?
Give it to you?
I'm looking at... Hold on. Let me look this up. Yeah, give it to me.
Philip Nolan.
Nolan started in the title game?
Yep.
I'm looking it up right now.
Played 19 minutes. Brema played 13.
This is. Gosh, it's embarrassing.
So should
Should the guy in a $600,000 suit.
I can't believe I got it wrong. I was convinced.
This is shameful. This is absolutely shameful for me.
No. You know what? I think UConn fans are going Brima too. It's ridiculous. I can't believe I got it wrong. Philip Nolan.
Yeah, Philip Nolan, starting big man. But anyway, like looking at that UConn team, I was like, how? But the answer to how on this San Diego State note is how. Well, you held Kentucky to 54 points. You held Florida, the number 3 team at KenPom, to 53. You held Michigan State, the number 9 team at KenPom, to 54. Like, they were locked down, like slow pace, but like lock down defensively. And sometimes like that is the UConn. It's interesting because UConn's more well-rounded, better offensively, but like the UConn path to winning a title is actually more like what San Diego State's facing right now.
I'd buy that. I think that's fair. I think there's something to that. Let's do a quick. GP and I are going to do the full blown, Final Four look ahead, things, storylines and just takeaways and all that. But we'll do a brief Final Four look ahead. You want another break in here? You got another thing queued up for me? You want a break right now? I don't have this in the Google
Actually, yeah, let's do that right now so that everybody
knows.
knows
What we're going to do. We are going to talk about the Final Four, and then I'm going to talk about the most surprising Final Four runs that we've ever seen. But first, Nada, do your thing. All right, there we have it. Okay, so Final Four look ahead. First of all, can you put this graphic up that our social team put up earlier on Twitter? Look at this thing. I don't think Chip has seen it yet. I sent it to Nada. This thing is an instant classic. We're going down to Houston. Look at the choice. Houston, we have liftoff. And inside the space, again, if you're listening, you can't see it. Look for the, I think this is under CBS Sports and not CBS Sports. Yeah, it's under the CBS Sports main one. In the spacesuits, we got
Brian Dutcher.
Come on, man.
An owl. No, John Hill Davis. Come on.
They put the owl in the spacesuit, which I actually appreciate. And you don't want to know why I appreciate it?
Why? Because owls can fly?
Well, yeah, but then the owl got left out of visiting the Empire State Building. So we got Brian Dutcher, Nigel Pack, Dan Hurley, and Owly the Owl. That's incredible. Hurley's face is just awesome. The owl looks like it might. Maybe those are its actual eyes. It might be under hallucinogens in that photo. But this is your Final Four. How about this? San Diego State, the only team of these 4 ranked in the preseason poll. Aztecs were 19th. All 4 teams were ranked in the final poll of this season. Let me bring up this exact one so we have it here. So while the actual composite of this year's 4 national semifinalists is unexpected and among the highest total seeds we have seen, you still have teams that were playing well heading into the tournament. So in the final poll, remember, there's no AP poll after the tournament. So this is the last one. This will be reflected forever. UConn was 10th. Miami was 16. San Diego State was 18. And yeah, you bet it. FAU, 25th in the poll in the final week. So all ranked teams are headed to Houston to play in the national semifinals. San Diego State and FAU have played twice in their history, 2000 and 2002. San Diego State won both of those games. And they won them comfortably. No one playing in those is playing in these, obviously, but they won 90-57 and 91-75. I do have a trivia time for you, and it does not involve Philip Nolan or Amita Brima. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
This will be just the UConn and Miami on the other side of it. It's the second time ever there's been a 4 versus 5 in a Final Four matchup. Can you guess the other? And my hint to you, I'll give you 3 guesses. I don't know if you can get this. This is fun. This is a tough one at home. If you know your history, though, it's in the 90s. There was a 4-5 matchup. Who do you think it was?
4-5 in the semis.
In the national semis. Yep. The 5 and it was like genuinely surprising. I remember when I was younger, this 5 making it to the Final Four. If it wasn't the first, it was like the second or third instance where I remember thinking to myself, wow. So it's like sometimes, you know, the best teams don't actually get to the Final Four.
All right, I'm doing no hands. No hands. No hands, no cheating. Was one of them the Syracuse 90? Is that a 96 team?
Bingo.
Oh, nice. All right. Okay.
Who's the 5? Who's the 5? Let's see if the chat's helping you out here. Is the chat?
No.
The chat has it. The chat has it.
Because Syracuse played Kentucky and lost.
Correct.
In the championship game.
76-67, if my memory serves correctly.
I don't have the other. I don't remember the semifinal opponent. I remember the Syracuse run, and I remember their seed being around there, but I don't remember who they beat in the semis. So I'll take the L.
The Mississippi State Bulldogs with Dante Jones and Eric Dampier. Who was the head coach?
Yeah.
Richard Williams was the head coach of Mississippi State.
Gotcha.
5 seed got there. So this will be the first 4 versus 5 in a national semi since. It's also it's an old school Big East affair. These two teams did used to play each other in conference play way back. Hey, kiddos, Miami and UConn used to share a conference. Now they're meeting back around in the national semis. Jim Larranaga is the only one here with Final Four experience. Did it with Mason, and again, did it on the 17-year anniversary of getting there overall. What else? You've got your South Florida flavors with Miami and FAU. Boca Raton and Coral Gables, stand the hell up. There had never been a South Florida team to make the Final Four until this year, and now they have 2 of them. You've also got this weird thing where FAU is heading to the American. It's leaving CUSA, and San Diego State, it's not done. It's the worst kept secret in sports. It's going to go to the Pac-12 at some point. So these conferences, the Mountain West and CUSA, will actually financially benefit in the next 3, 4, 5 years because the units will space out, and they're making millions upon millions upon millions of dollars for this. So it's a nice parting gift for those leagues. SDSU is just a matter of if, or not a matter of if, but just a time of when with all of that. I
texted you on that. That's the lamest thing to bring up. I always feel bad, but like just because I'm so embedded in the college football side of this, that like conference realignment, like that's the Cover 3 podcast on March 26th. Like, yes, if there is any conference realignment buzz, then it is going to be top of mind. And one of the things that we're actually planning as a show is like, oh yeah, don't forget like FAU, which like Tom Herman's going to be the new head coach. Like they are going to be in the American. You know, Houston is going to be in the Big 12. There were a lot of second weekend moving pieces. You know, UCLA is going to be in the Big 10. You know, like it was an interesting sort of back burner, like 9th most important storyline. But I at least was latching onto this thinking for FAU, for Charlotte winning the CBI. Like you were sitting here talking about North Texas having success in the NIT and Charlotte having success in the CBI and FAU making it to the Final Four. And you're like, man, how great is this for Conference USA? Like for a minute, like all these teams, all 3 of them that I just mentioned are going to be in the American Athletic Conference next season. Just a little back burner thing to keep in mind as we're thinking about where all these teams stack in their neighborhoods, much less the national picture.
A few more things here. Every team that's going to the Final Four had some, you got to overcome adversity. FAU could have, if they give Memphis the timeout, probably done in the first round.
Miami and Drake.
San Diego State was in a tight one against Charleston in the first round. Miami was down big and went on a 16-1 run and ran away with it in the first round. And then UConn, I was in the building for both that and UConn Iona. Iona actually led at halftime of that game. So the ways that you get to the Final Four eventually are obviously quite interesting. And man, oh man, it is eclectic. I am excited to cover it, but I'm also excited for the fan bases. And like FAU came big to the Garden, really big to the Garden, man. Like I was so impressed. Now K-State still outflanked them, but these are, on the surface. And again, we'll dive deeper into this with GP on Tuesday, but you got Brian Dutcher, who wasn't a head coach until he was like 56, 57 years old. San Diego State would have been probably a 1 and a 2 at the worst in 2020. Like it was a dominant team. And then what we remember, Kansas was one in Ken Palm. Dayton was having this incredible year, but San Diego State was good enough to win a national title that season too. So it finally gets some redemption in there. That's a really cool story. FAU kind of speaks for itself, and I'll give a few quick notes on them before we get out of here. UConn under Hurley, he hadn't won a tournament game with the program till this year, and now he's going to the Final Four. And the Huskies are coming full circle in the context of the season. They looked incredible in November. They win their PK 85 event. Then they've got the lull. Hurley gets COVID. He misses a game, and they drop 6 of 8. And now here they are. They're just the vibes I get off of this UConn team that are just like 90s, 2000s. Like this roster has a lot of that, and it's really cool to see. Just because. Being around college basketball when that was happening.
Dan, this program through and through, but like to me, I think about Adama Sanogo because Adama Sanogo was one of the best freshmen in the country, one of the best freshmen in the Big East when he stepped in, and that was the first year that UConn was in the Big East. Like they had just made their arrival. It was Dan Hurley's 3rd year on the job. And it was the first year that they made the NCAA tournament. And I just sense that there is some ownership, that there is like, and again, I'm asking you because you were with them in Albany, but like, I just think that there is something about these upperclassmen who build to this point. And it goes back to my Jordan Miller, Miami reference, where it's like, when you put in this much and you get so close and then you feel that heartbreak. I mean, there is nothing like I wish I could take every college basketball fan and put them with me in the losing locker room in the NCAA tournament. The smells, the sounds, like everything in there will rock your soul. Like for real. I mean, it is incredible. The human emotion that is felt and how raw it is. And I think about Sanogo. As soon as he got a part of the roster, he was very quickly an important part of UConn basketball. So he has become the face of this resurgence. And it's just like, man, that is the kind of player who, because of his physical talents and also just like how good he is, will be like, I can will this team to a win right now. And it is so impressive to see this UConn group build to this point. Back to what GP and you have referenced, if you're going to get us now because it's coming. Like Dan Hurley calling his shot, all that sweet. But I also want to put the focus on the players who have been there for all of these years of in college football, we say you lose big, you lose small, you win big. And you have to go through those steps to be able to win big. Feels like UConn's about to win big.
And on the Sanogo stuff, Hurley referenced this at one of his press conferences, but because Klingon has been such a boost as a freshman and been better than anyone expected him to be, Sanogo was on the receiving end of some just straight up trash from UConn fans. And this isn't the entire fan base. This is probably 1 or 2% of the fan base. But just stuff where the official account would tweet or put something on the gram, as the kids say. I promise not to use that phrase again. Not the gram.
Oh, in the comment section gets toxic.
And then it's just why is he starting? Bench this guy, play Klingon 30 minutes. And that stuff, they tried their best to shut it out, but it became a thing. And so to see Sanogo continue to kick ass and be an incredible player and a major force for that team, and Hawkins, he went off and they're just loaded. UConn's absolutely loaded, and we'll see how they handle. They were understandably a chic Final Four pick, and even for some a national title pick. But now they're going to go into this being the the comfortable favorite to win it all. And we'll see. And on the last with storylines and stuff, and just Larranaga doing this at 73 with Miami, and the way that they were able to do it, like they basically they just played Houston in submission in a way that I didn't think Houston was capable of falling flat. It was weird, but credit to Miami for doing that. And then coming back and winning the way it did against Texas in a big spot for Miami to get down there. You have these fan bases, Miami basketball, San Diego State and their Aztecs. And that's the show is going to travel. The show is heading to Houston and it's going to be there in a big way. And again, FAU. So I'll talk FAU here real quick.
Oh, they've got an advantage. They've got a spiritual advantage.
FAU does?
Yeah, the Aztec people did not want to
mess this.
Yeah, the Aztec people did not want to mess
with this. Is this someone that is it? This what you're about to say? Did you fact check this before we go with this claim?
I did. I actually read one religious studies thesis on Mesoamerican religious beliefs when it comes to owls, and in general, they respected but did not want any piece of these owls. We have discovered a lot of Aztec whistles, that would have been associated with death ceremonies that were carved in the shape of an owl. And the Aztec people, they did. And like, to be fair, I mean, it's kind of like how I feel about raccoons. That's your time. All right, bud. Like you stay over there. I don't want to mess with you. You got all kinds of crazy stuff.
You're afraid of raccoons?
No, but I respect them, and I will not try to engage in battle with the. Do you engage in battle with a raccoon?
I'm not looking to engage in battle with a raccoon.
No, absolutely not. Like we got too much else on the line. Stakes are too high out here to be engaging in battle with a raccoon and suffer the repercussions. And apparently that's the way the Aztec people felt about these owls, these night hunters, these nocturnal animals that they didn't want to mess with. So I think the Aztec people, if they didn't like owls, it might be a advantage for FAU.
Okay, we'll see about that. Garden was incredible, as it always is. The East Regional, I should say. It's the all the games in the corner of the bracket, that's the region. The regionals are actually the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight. So the regional, all three games were tremendous. I think I was at the best of the four because every single game was competitive and decided late. And just what a performance to see Marquise Noel do what he did in 2 games, and for that building to come alive, and to see Carmelo after I wasn't going to bother Carmelo and Mace and Cameron. I was not bothering them. They're standing like right next to me in the back. But a part of me was like, should I go over and just talk to these guys about Noel? But I actually had to run. I actually had to go and do like an HQ hit in like less than 90 seconds. So I was like, nah, we're good. But it was kind of fun to watch that stuff behind the scenes. And for the FAU fan base, just showing up in huge numbers, and that building this tournament always delivers, and that building always delivers. And for Dusty May and that team, come on now. They are for real. By the way, I will have a story that I believe we are going to publish on Monday. Dusty May shared something with me off the record in January and said that I could use it at a future date when he was, further along in his career. And then I called him.
And now it's further along.
And I called him I called him when they made the Sweet 16. And I said, if you make the Final Four, let me write this. And he said, if we make the Final Four, you can write it. So I'm not going to spoil it. But there is an interesting origin story to Dusty May being at FAU that has not been reported. So that will be on the site on Monday, I believe. I'm going to finish writing it tonight, and I think we're going to try and pub that tomorrow. From Dusty to do this, and with again, I understand it's a collection of players that is mostly anonymous to the country, but they're 9 deep. Oh, by the way, they've got Jalen Gaffney, who played at UConn, now opposite sides of the bracket, but Gaffney left UConn, now FAU. They're both in the tournament. And Janelle Davis of FAU played on the Indy Heat grassroots program. They were teammates. Now they're on opposite sides of the bracket. They're going to the Final Four as well. Some cool reunion stories there. The team doesn't rattle. They're impressive. And as I wrote, I don't write these things for effect. I write them because I believe them. Now it's going to take a lot. I'm telling you, FAU can win the national championship. It has the guys, the coaching, the scheme, the depth, the 3-point shooting, and the outright resolve. Does not rattle. Okay, against Tennessee didn't matter. FDU was threatening them. Didn't matter. Memphis got a little tight late. They got a beneficial call their way. Didn't matter. They can win. I think I mentioned this earlier in the show on Creighton. They can win in the 50s, 60s, 70s, or 80s. They can do it. Does not matter. It would be one of the all-time stories in sports if they do it. But I don't consider that the story is a Cinderella story. The team is not a Cinderella team. They're 35-3. They're guaranteed to have more wins this season than any other team in the sport. No one can catch them in the Final Four or the CBI or the NIT or any of it. So no matter what happens, they're going to finish with more dubs than any other school. And they've been doing this all season long, and it's super duper impressive. And that was an awesome scene to cover on Saturday. And some of those players, like I got them on HQ, and there was a look of, for a couple of them, it was like, we don't even know how to interpret what's happening right now. And that's the best. That's the best.
Well, that's why I was going to say, if FAU, to build on Matt Norlander's Eye on College Basketball podcast statement, and in his column that they can win a national championship, if FAU wins a national championship, it is, in my opinion, not arguable that it goes down as one of the Cinderella or at least like miracle tournament runs, because since 1979, only 6 teams have won the national championship with odds of 20-1 or longer on Selection Sunday. Those teams are the 2014 UConn team, which we couldn't even come up with the starting 5. The 1985 Villanova team that is widely regarded as one of the great. Raleigh Massimino, leads that team. Their incredible shooting performance, yada, yada, yada. 2011 UConn, we've got Kemba going Super Saiyan. 1983 NC State, was it a pass or a missed shot? 1988 Kansas, Danny and the Miracles, and 2006 Florida. So since 1979, there have only been 6 teams who have won the national championship with pre-tournament betting odds of 20-1 or longer. FAU would clearly be a part of this. In fact, the only team remaining who had odds of better than 20-1 is UConn. Texas could have been there, but of course they lost. Those other ones would be Houston, Alabama, Kansas, Purdue, UCLA, Arizona, and Gonzaga. So for FAU to win would put them in the same conversation as a 1985 Villanova, a 1983 NC State, 1988 Kansas, the UConn teams of 14 and 11. It would look historically like a Cinderella type run, even though if they win the national championship, there'd be a 37 win team, 36. Which one?
What for FAU?
Yeah, if FAU wins the title,
37.
Yeah, Even though there would be a 37-win national champion, it would still look, based on the expectations in the betting market and otherwise, closer to a 1985 Villanova, 1983 NC State.
Final 4 teams. San Diego State won its league, won its conference tournament. FAU won its league, won its conference tournament. Miami won its league, was the 1 seed, did not win its conference tournament. UConn did not win its league, did not win its conference tournament. UConn has more losses than any team in the Final Four, but it is also rated comfortably as the best in terms of projected futures and then predictive metrics. In KenPom specifically, UConn is 1, San Diego State is 14, FAU is 17, and Miami is 22. Let's wrap it up with this: the most surprising Final Four runs in modern history since they went to seeding. Dude, what year did they go to seeding, Chip?
1979.
That's right, buddy. That's right.
Billy Corgan being a jerk doesn't turn you off from Smashing Pumpkins.
You know what do you want?
Separate the art from the artist, okay? Anything before bad. I'll do bad, and everything before, we're good.
Here's my order. Top 10. 2007 South Carolina, 2017 South Carolina. I was there. MSG as a 7 seed. They beat 10 seed Marquette, 2 seed Duke, 3 seed Baylor, and 4 seed Florida. Shouts to Sindarius Thornwell. Shouts to Devin
Sindarius
Downey.
Thornwell was also the counter to the idea that Duke in Madison Square Garden was unbeatable.
That's correct. That is
Duke,
correct.
Yeah.
Number 9 on this list, I have this year's FAU team from the 9 spot. Memphis, 16 seed FDU. This is, so the way I did this was the team, the road, how strong it was. Like FAU was ranked. Like it's unlikely. Historically, this is unreal. But I think it's the 9th most unlikely Final Four run we've had. All right. They beat Memphis, FDU as a 16, 4 seed Tennessee, 3 seed K-State. Number 8, the first Butler team. It was a 5 seed, but it's Butler. All right. And it was the second in this run of mid-major / Cinderellas. Yes, it had a future pro on the team in Gordon Hayward. Yes, it almost beat Duke on the greatest missed shot, arguably in the history of the tournament. Beat 12 seed UTEP, 13 seed Murray State, top seed Accuse. I'm sorry, K-State. You're going to take a lot of strays here. The K-State is, by the way, lost, 9 straight Elite 8 games. They've lost so many Elite 8 games in a row, haven't made the Final Four, or cut just short. It's been 60. It'll be 60 years officially next year. Number 7 on the list. It's COVID, so I didn't know where to put this, but it's UCLA. Now it's UCLA. It's a big program. UCLA lost 4 straight games heading into the 21 tournament, barely got in the field, won the first 4 game against 11 seed Michigan State, then beat BYU the 6, Abilene Christian the 4, 2nd seeded Alabama, top seeded Michigan to get there. I put them there. They were the toughest one to sort out, but that's where I land them. Going to go to the original. Wow, we got a 64 team field, and we got some wackiness here. LSU. 86, 11 seed. They beat 6 seed Purdue, 3 seed Memphis State. They did the toughest road the whole way. 6 seed Purdue, 3 seed Memphis State. It was Memphis State back then. 2 seed Georgia Tech, number 1 Kentucky to get there. Now we get to the top half. Number 5, 2011 Butler. Didn't have Hayward, was an 8 seed. Almost lost to Old Dominion and Pitt in an incredible first weekend. This team at one point was 14-9. All right. It got up to an 8 seed, beat Old Dominion Pitt, 4 seed Wisconsin, 2 seed Florida to get to the second Final Four in as many years and really establish and firm up the legend of that is Brad Stevens. Top 4. You want to guess? You want to try and guess my order here?
For your top 4 unlikely Final Four runs.
Yep. Here we go. 2013, Wichita State. That's my number 4. They were a 9 seed. I saw them in person beat Pitt as an 8 and number 1 seed Gonzaga. That was out in Salt Lake City a decade ago. Then they went out to LA. They beat, remember, LaSalle as a 13 made the Sweet 16. That actually happened. And then they beat 2 seed Ohio State to get to the Final Four under Greg Marshall. That was the year before they got to the tournament undefeated and ultimately got knocked off in the second round in that
Loyola at 3.
Kentucky. Loyola Chicago is the 3. 11 seed 2018. Just a magical run. Beat 6 seed Miami and 3 seed Tennessee. Both of those were won in the closing seconds, and then they got by Nevada by just 1 point with Muss as the coach. That was the run that got him on the road to Arkansas, and then they knocked off. Yes,
Kansas State.
K-State got knocked off in a regional final. Like yet again, they keep getting in the way of this stuff. The thing that's amazing about.
Can I sit on that one real quick?
Yeah.
I showed up to Atlanta. Virginia had been bounced because they were the one in the South. Kentucky was there. And we were like, this is it. This is Kentucky, just like easy, slip and slide. Like it's Loyola. It's, Kentucky had to play Kansas State. It was going to be Loyola and Nevada. Like just think about that from a Kentucky fan base standpoint. All you got to do is beat Kansas State and then the Loyola Nevada winner, and you're in the Final Four. That building on Friday, because it was a Friday, Sunday, if I remember correctly, but like BBN was filling that place. Shout out to Bruce Wepper, Cartier Jara, like just a hard scrabble K-State squad in that year in 2018 that was able to knock them off. But yeah, they didn't end up falling short to Loyola and Sister Jean in that magical run.
The Sister Jean effect. Loyola Chicago hadn't been to the tournament in 3 decades. There's a lot going into that, and that had to be 3. Number 2, Which one is it? What do you think?
Kansas 88.
Not on the list, man. No shot.
Oh yeah, because it's have you already mentioned VCU 11?
I have not. That is number 2. 2011 VCU, the first team to go from first four to Final Four. Speculation whether it even should be in the tournament. I believe it was Billis that famously said VCU should not be in the field. It beat USC in the first four, then knocked off Georgetown, Purdue. Purdue was a 3, Florida State as a 10, and then went just ballistic from 3-point range and beat that's top seeded Kansas, number 1 that year. I think Kansas. I'm not going to speak for Kansas fans, but over the years, it feels like of all the like that is in the top 3 of like that team didn't make a Final Four. Are you kidding me? VCU did it, and that means number 1 is of course 2006 George Mason, which is the first. Like it's the first Cinderella team to do it, and they got in over Hofstra, and there was a lot of lamenting. I think Vital was saying, "Why isn't Hofstra in the field?" And because Hofstra, I think Hofstra swept Mason, went 3-0 against him, but Mason got in. I think it was the last team into the field. It was a 65 team field. There wasn't 68 teams then. There was 65. There was only one playing game. They beat 6 seed Michigan State, 3 seed North Carolina, 7 seed Wichita State, and then the epic OT 86-84 win over a stacked UConn team. Denham Brown shot went long. That's my top 10. You had the likes of Wisconsin in 2000. Someone in the chat mentioned them. They were certainly under consideration. Penn was a 9. What year did they do that, Chip?
Actually,
9
I do know that because FAU is the third 9. I've been writing in 10 out of the last 13 days, I've written a story for CBSSports.com that is the storylines for the day ahead. And it is not anywhere close to what Gary Parrish has to do for 200 days out of a year of just writing a new story every single day. That is the same day. But when you're squeezing the last bit of juice out of that lemon, you're like, I don't know, man. I've been talking about FAU a lot. Okay, they're really deep in this tournament. What's the story then? How many 9s have there been? And sure enough, 11s have gotten to the Final Four more often than a 9.
That's right.
8s have gotten to the Final Four 3 times more often than a 9. The 9, the 9, did I catch a 9er? 9 is actually one of the least likely seed lines in the outside of deep in the bracket that you're going to have. So yeah, FAU, I did know that it's Penn and it's Wichita State, and now it's FAU, the only 3 9s to make it to the Final Four.
Yep. And the only other team that was 9 or worse I didn't have on my list, I think here was 2016 Syracuse was a 10. I think that's the only one I didn't include in there along with Penn. But that's my list.
Team.
Say it again.
The Syracuse run, the late era, especially now that Boeheim's retired, we can start to talk about late era Boeheim. The late era Boeheim run did require one NBA talent.
Yes.
You had
I was there when they did it. I was.
But it's Virginia of course. This is a huge game. You're playing zone defense. It's one possession. Oh, you've got one player who is an NBA talent who can just put the ball in his hands and make it happen. I feel like Malachi Richardson was that player on that team.
They got it done. They beat Gonzaga and Virginia in Chicago. I do remember that well. Man, oh man, that was the final Four of Jim Boeheim's career. I think that's about going to do it here. We've gone, man, we really did go long. Now it's what are you guys doing? 70+ minutes. The Final Four is set. We will preview the games. GP and I will be back for a Tuesday episode, so you can be on the lookout for that.
Hey GP. Hey GP. I know you're watching on the onboard in-flight Wi-Fi.
Wow,
you got that Delta Gold Club.
That's Chip Patterson from the Cover 3 podcast, our college football counterpart. Do be sure to subscribe to that YouTube channel. What do you do to the like button over there? You're not smashing it like Brandon Davies. What are you doing?
No, I think we do smash. I mean,
Yeah.
smash that subscribe, smash that like, come in, join us in the chat because like, I mean, listen, we're here at like 75 minutes, but like our chat is subscriber only mode. So you do have to be
Ours is as well, right? Nada? This is subscriber only mode.
Yeah.
Of course. You think I'm turning down free subscribers? No.
Yeah. So that's I very quickly blow through that to get to the communal aspect. Like smash that subscribe, smash that. Like come and join us in the chat. We will be taking live questions every single Thursday, as we always do. In addition to the big old bag of mail, leave us a 5-star review. Put that question in the, yada yada yada.
You do very frequent mailbag episodes. We do not.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the thing that I have learned is that college football, you talk 12 months a year about a season that only has 12 games a year. Like it inherently requires, like it is a talking sport. It is a sport that is built less on results and more on talking about what's going on. And so I have found that like, yes, it helps, but it also like the people that care as much as we care have really like fun ideas and like, oh, okay. Like I get excited and enthused sometimes by hearing what our listeners have to say, more so than I would just trying to scan the headlines and come up with a podcast. So that's probably one reason why.
I hear you. I think that's a viable option every now and then. We will be back on Tuesday. Thank you, everyone, again. If you've gotten to the end of this, hit the like button, continue to subscribe, spread the word. You've made this the most successful month in the history of this podcast. We appreciate you so very, very much. We will be back. We are scheduled to be back at the latest on Tuesday morning. I am Matt Norlander. This is Chip Patterson. I'm going to hit one more random one on the button. Which one are we going to go with here? Let's go with a little more Tobias.
There are dozens of us. Dozens!
We will see you on Tuesday. Take care.